You'll hear feedback from your manager that you need to have more visibility.
We all know and we witness these examples of people who seem to be so good at it.
The why is important. Why am I here in the first place? And what is my expectation of it?
It takes a while to figure out which is which. I mean, I may identify with a group of people at this point in time in my life, and I may not identify with that group later.
A great way to meet somebody, if you want to, is to actually go up to them, have a conversation, ask for something.
Sometimes networking with some end goal in mind. More and more, I'm realizing now that hiring, especially, because it's ending up becoming a lot of talk and no action.
In networking, you think of, okay, there's an A and a B, and you're one of them. I don't want to be either of them. I enjoy and I am good at is being the connector of A and B. So I'm sure you've been there, like literally been there, in a room, surrounded by strangers, and your plan was to network. Your plan was to meet 10 new people today, tell them about your work or your business or your hobby, whatever the reason that made you sign up for this. And then you found that one other soul standing in a corner nursing a soft drink. And then you walked over, and now you're best friends for life, right? And you didn't meet anyone else. So, what is it about networking that really drives so many of us out of the room, running back home, and just wishing we just never have to do this ever again? Let's find out. Welcome to Small Talk Work Play Build. I'm Subha Chandrasekharan, a leadership and career growth coach.
Hi, I'm Hasita Krishna. I am a brand strategist and co-founder at Motley Crue.
And you remember how we met, Hasita?
At a networking event, which is I think I'm just waiting for permission to crack up here for a second because the first time we met.
We met at a Facebook
For creators event.
No, for
I think
business.
I mean,
For women
I think
entrepreneurs,
that
something
should
like
tell
that.
people everything there is to know about how amazing we are at this. Yeah, we were those two people nursing a soft drink in the corner, and clearly we are now friends for life as well.
Yeah.
It just hits too close to home.
So, and I don't remember either the event or anyone who presented or the topics, nothing, right? But I still sign up for some of these. I don't stop. I don't know why, but once
More
in a
power
while.
to you. I don't know why you do it, but you do.
Yeah. But, when you start a business, when you start something new or when you like venture into something new, this word gets thrown at you or you throw it at yourself that you have to network, right? You have to put yourself out there.
Oh yeah.
You have to meet new people, and otherwise, how will anyone know what you're
Yeah.
doing? Fair enough. Somehow, most of us really don't enjoy it. And I think even in the corporate world, right? The other kind of the pal of networking is visibility. So you'll hear feedback from your manager that you need to have more visibility,
Oh, I see.
right?
Interesting.
So your peers don't know you. Senior leaders from other business lines don't know you. So why don't you do something about your visibility, which is to say network and be known, right?
I do see the value in it. And I think we all know and we witness these examples of people who seem to be so good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like mythical beasts, honestly.
Yeah.
What is it that they're getting right? And how do the rest of us, mere mortals, even like begin to catch up to a semblance of whatever they're pulling off?
No, it's tough, and I think because I'm not sure. Like when I think of it, it's not like I don't enjoy meeting new people. I do.
Yeah.
Genuinely. And there are so many times when I've been thrown into a group of unknown people, and you've forged a connection with one or two, and you've actually reconnected afterwards, and either just a kind of a relationship has formed and you're in touch with each other, or business has evolved from it.
Yeah.
So, just sticking to people you know and hoping that by word of mouth, etc., you will be known for what you do, I mean, it's not going to work, obviously.
Hmm.
So you do have to put yourself out there.
Network is your net worth.
Oof, then we're dead.
I'll be so poor. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not the people aspect that's
Hmm.
the troubling
Hmm.
issue here, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying I categorically hate all human beings unless proven otherwise. Is not. I mean, what high horse am I sitting on
Yeah.
that allows me to even think that? But it's also the context in which sometimes we get thrown into these
Hmm.
things, or sometimes we throw because we've believed or we've told ourselves that without doing that, there's no
Yeah.
future for me. But really, I think isn't this podcast, isn't this phase of our lives all about tearing all of those assumptions down and really saying, okay, what now, right? So let's tear this one down a little
Yeah.
bit. Why a little bit? Actually, let's just tear the whole thing
Yeah.
down and say, I mean, when you're in a conference, which we sign up for, or at least we used to a lot
Hmm.
before the pandemic, we would still go there and not want to meet too many other peers.
Hmm.
But we were happy to do a bit of learning. We were happy to
Yeah.
listen to people talk, share their insights. Even online, we've kind of continued that in our own groups and circles.
Correct.
We actually also genuinely very fondly feel about someone who reaches out for advice, or someone who's just trying to solve that same problem that we've probably solved
Correct.
already.
Correct.
So, what is different about the word networking? I mean, honestly, it sets me off so much.
I
It,
know.
it makes me want to run. So, is it the word or is it the interpretation? What is it?
I think because there are many types of networking, and that's what we're missing. Like, we've got this stereotypical image in our mind that it means a large conference hall of strangers, and that the event or your presence is a success
Hmm.
only if you have met 10 new people, or given your business card to X number of people, or come back after that and sent that hello, remember we met here kind of
Yeah.
mail or message or whatever, and continued that. But I think we're all different people, and this concept of meeting new people takes different shapes and forms, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, I'm really happy to be thrown into smaller groups.
Yeah.
Like, I like intimate surroundings. Like, I like um you know and generally in Bangalore we have the culture of, someone's invited you, they're okay if you bring a friend,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So, and it's happened with us in our separate circles. Like, I have a couple of friends, and then you'll join for coffee.
Yeah.
You have an event or a gathering, and I'll join. So, friends of friends is a welcome situation,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's a certain amount of intimacy to that.
No, for sure. And that's what we are looking for more and more as well. I hear so many friends now tell me, even the more social among them,
Mm.
saying, I don't want to, be chatting with people on WhatsApp all the time.
Mm.
I don't want 30 messages every time
Mm.
I wake up in the morning.
Mm.
But I'm happy to hear from a few people with whom I feel, I think, yeah, what we're probably looking for is a space to just be ourselves
Yeah.
and not have to put on a show, which is what I think networking as a word demands of us
Mm.
sometimes, 70% of the time. And you're right. I mean, when I think of the word, I'm realizing now that one of the reasons it irritates me so much is because one of my earliest memories of networking when I had started out in the corporate world, we were at this event and some 20 of us were asked to basically introduce ourselves to each other.
Mm.
And you make those two lines and then you go
Yeah,
this
yeah,
way. We were doing all of that. And there was she already laughs because she knows.
yeah.
And there was this one person, he came to me, he said, Hi, what's your name? And before I could even utter a word, his eyes had darted off to the next person
Mm.
because his goal there is to get through everybody.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure today, if we met someplace, neither of us would
Yeah,
firstly
yeah, yeah.
recognize each
Yeah.
other. And
I
I
mean,
don't
half
think.
an hour from then you wouldn't have recognized each other, like, for sure.
And I
So,
don't think he remembers a single soul's name for that
yeah,
matter,
yeah,
which was the core of his goal, right? Like
correct.
get
I
to
think
know.
that's the point. Like, I think that's what makes us kind of dislike it even more, because then we think, okay, but I made the effort. I went there.
Yeah.
What did I get? Oh, I
Hmm.
didn't get anything because I don't remember even a single person's name.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So reinforces that it was a waste of my time and energy, and I didn't like it in the first place, blah
Yeah.
blah, right? The point you made about being authentic,
Mm-hmm.
that I've heard of, or it's been said by everyone who's telling you how to network, that
Mm-hmm.
ultimately you have to be authentic. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to be who you are,
Hmm.
right? Because for how long can you put on a show,
Yeah.
honestly?
Yeah.
You can't, like, even in these kind of speed networking events, etc., you can't do it for too long, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think about, okay, maybe what I don't do, and what you know we can try to do, is that bit of prep work.
Hmm.
That why am I going here,
Yeah.
right? And if it is to maybe sometimes just give attendance because the person who's organizing it invited you, right? And it's the nice thing to do,
Hmm.
or it's part of a checklist, and for some reason you have to tick it off. Then admit that to yourself, and don't beat yourself up that you didn't make 5 new contacts,
Yeah.
like you never intended to in the first place.
Yeah. I think that permission to chill is
Hmm.
what I mean. Authenticity, again, it's such a big word because
Yeah.
who I am, and for me to show up as that person again, I need a certain amount of trust. I need to
Hmm.
know those people.
Hmm.
But just the ability to relax a little bit, because I have this notorious reputation among my friends and social circles that I'll always be the one trying so hard to cancel the plan, so hard, but then I'll be the one having the most amount of fun once that plan actually
Ah.
unfolds.
Hmm.
So I think for me it's just that one switch which I could probably now start making, of saying that I don't have to go here and perform.
Ah.
I just have to go. That's all there is
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. So I've found that smaller groups work for
Hmm.
me, right? And even online, right? Uh, During the pandemic, we had this whole, free webinar for breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
Hmm.
and we all tried it and got tired of it pretty soon. But even today, the rare webinar, I find that if it's a large group and it's performative,
Hmm.
then, like you said, if I've come in there to learn something, then my expectation is, please, you teach me and go.
Hmm.
Like, don't make me, force me to get into breakout rooms, meet four other people, tell them my life story, become acquaintances,
Yeah.
etc., etc. Because that's not what you advertised,
Hmm.
in a
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
You said this is about learning, networking skill, but that's a wrong example, because then you'd have to be in the breakout room.
It's not something you can be taught and left to your own. I mean, left to our own devices, we'd fail that class
Yeah,
miserably.
yeah. But let's say you've gone to learn some kind of concept, or even some kind of marketing tool, or
Hmm.
like, if that's what you advertise, then please
Just
teach
teach
me
me
that.
that.
And then in the process, I might hear somebody ask a smart question. I'll try and figure out who they are, connect with them separately, etc., etc.
Hmm.
So maybe the why is important. Why am I here in the first place? And what is my expectation of it? And then if I'm kind of put into a situation where I have to participate or
Hmm.
perform, then just make the choice. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
there are
Fair enough.
times when I've just said, oh, this is
I'll go
seems like a,
perform or
yeah,
hmm.
it seems like I have to, so I'll go through the ritual.
Yeah.
Or I've said, okay, this seems like a series of breakout rooms, I'm out. Like, this is not happening.
Yeah, yeah.
It is not the value that I'm getting
Yeah.
from
Which
this.
also I think it makes me think of maybe this idea of what we assume is our identity and what is probably the true self or the true identity of who we are. And it takes a while to figure out which is
Mm.
which. I mean, I may identify with a group of people at this point in time in my life, and I may not identify with that group later
Mm.
from an identity standpoint. And then it becomes really difficult to not get out of the room in time if have nothing else to contribute.
Yeah. No, I've seen that happening, that when I was setting up the business, and early days of post corporate and into entrepreneurship, I joined a lot of women's
Hmm.
groups, women entrepreneurs, women business owners, etc. And it made sense at that phase, and it
Hmm.
was extremely useful in that
Yeah.
phase, right? And some of the connections I made, they evolved into clients, or I am their client, and or today, I reach out to them for something very specific, which is their area of expertise, etc.
Hmm.
And it made sense in that phase. Now today, like almost 10 years into entrepreneurship, if I'm still part of that group and then feeling like, oh, but what's in it for me,
Hmm.
it's not fair on the group, because they are for early business
Yeah, yeah.
stage. So I have to admit that and find the next
That's
group.
that's so true. And also I think it's a challenge for maybe startup founders in particular, who, you are the accountant, you're the chef, you're
Yeah,
the
it's lonely.
waiter, you're the, so many things. um Somewhere in your mind you may enjoy some parts of it. Like for me personally, I do enjoy being in a room with people, solving problems,
Hmm.
especially when there is an opportunity to put a certain skill set to good use.
Hmm.
I also enjoy being in spaces where just a bunch of people are laughing, they're having fun,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
just laugh if you want to. Like that's the only expectation there is. Of course, I mean, sometimes I look at my own pictures of myself on a dive boat and I think this is where I should just live on these boats, and not get off them ever. So it's also about picking and choosing that, but then sometimes you don't have the choice but to then do the remaining 60-70% of the job.
Hmm.
For me, the biggest pet peeve today happens to be um, stand up meetings and calls and conversations. Like you've just decided to block time for an endless,
Hmm.
runway in the future.
Hmm.
For what reason? For no reason. And balancing those nuances more and more, I'm realizing, is about asking myself, what am I here for? And what part of this job do I really enjoy and I want to do more of?
Hmm.
And what part of this job do I not want to do? And if honestly, attending these events, being there, being the face of my brand is not something that I can do, then it's maybe okay to not do
No,
it
give it to someone
at
else.
some
Yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, true. I genuinely like enjoyed a couple of events. I think end of last year, more of like wrap up events. The community was meeting more often during the year, but these were a set of coaches that I had grown to know over the years. So out of a group of maybe 30 who met up for a Sunday morning Cubbon Park chat, I might have known 5 or 10 of them
Hmm. Hmm.
already. So I like those kind of
Right.
groups, right,
Yeah.
where I am not a complete stranger. Then there was another set of coaches that I met for lunch where honestly I think I didn't know any of them face to face. I hadn't met them face to face ever, but it was a kind of a chapter lunch. And
Hmm.
I said, I've not participated in the whole year, and let me give it a shot. And I had a really nice time because
Hmm. Hmm.
I went there with no, I don't know, no burden of having to
Come across a
prove
certain way
something
or
or sell something, or because we
hmm.
were all selling the same thing, right? So there's no selling to each other.
Fair, yeah.
Correct. So it was a very, we're genuinely here to just catch up before the year ends and, see how your year went
Yeah,
and
yeah.
say hi, hello. So, one, I think, is developing that awareness of what works for you,
Hmm.
right?
Also, what does connection mean to us as
Hmm.
people? And it could mean different things. More and more, as even we are having this chat, it's kind of evolving in real time that being able to talk about different things with the
Hmm.
same individual to me is connection.
True.
And which is exactly the opposite of networking in a professional context.
Huh.
But if I can have 3 4 parallel conversations, because to me that's the beauty of an individual, right? There is so many
Hmm.
aspects to who they are and to their life experience.
Hmm.
I think having a space, sometimes it may also come across as going too deep too soon, but just being able to know that here's a person with whom tomorrow I can have a chat on something else and something else and
Yeah.
something else, that's very enriching to me.
Hmm. Interestingly, one of the hacks I've read about networking, I mean, that even in kind of theory, you say, okay, how can you be mutually beneficial to each other, and what would you want from them, what could they want from you, etc., etc. One thing I've read is that ask for something,
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
because everybody likes to give
Yeah,
or like to be helpful if they can,
yeah.
or to give you a piece of advice, or to give you the contact of somebody else who could help you, etc. So a great way to meet somebody, if you want to, is to actually go up to them, have a conversation, ask for something.
Hmm.
Hey, can you help me with? It feels like it's a difficult
Yeah,
thing
and
to
it feels
do.
counterintuitive
Yeah,
almost, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But if I think about it, if it were flipped and I was standing in the corner with that soft drink and someone came up to me
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, who are you? Oh, you're this. Can you help me with this?" You'd actually
Immediately, that's true.
it
Yeah,
takes
yeah.
the burden off you,
Yeah, that's actually true.
right?
And in fact, multiple conversations in the few networking events that I have enjoyed, I think the reason has been this, now that I
Mm,
think about it, that someone, I mean, firstly, kudos to them for making the effort to kind of
yeah.
step up and ask, maybe
Somebody
something for me
told
to
them.
learn.
Somebody told them this hacks.
Or maybe they're just really nice at it overall. And immediately, if there was that one question that said, okay, how did this happen? Okay, or I've been trying to solve for this for a very long time. Oh, that's interesting, I didn't know that it could be done this way as well.
Mm,
It makes it a lot more easier because suddenly I can leverage on who I am
yeah,
rather than try to invent something and say, oh, I run this, I do this, oh, in my free time I'm also this. It's just too much pressure
yeah,
to put on myself.
yeah. Which brings me to another thought that we should also make it easier for ourselves to share some of this basic information, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, I'm in some WhatsApp groups where the people, they have no name.
Hmm.
Like, even if I want to address them or remember what they said or reply, like it's like emojis of sunshine and rain and something. Like, how am I supposed to form any kind of
Impression.
connection
Yeah.
with this
Yeah.
person? I find it tough. Like,
Yeah.
some people are really good at even kind of WhatsApp connections
Yeah.
and keeping that conversation going in a group of 50, 60, 100,
Hmm.
and always chiming in with their points of view, etc.
Hmm.
But I don't find that easy. I feel like I'm suddenly jumping in. Do you know who I am? And do I know who you are?
Yeah.
But how can we make that easier? Maybe, uh, if I'm meeting someone in the real world and if I say, okay, by the way, this is my website or this is my LinkedIn profile, make sure all of that is set up well. Like, all
Yeah.
your basic information is there. Or if you give them a number, then your name is visible. And if it's a business number, then business details are visible. So
Yeah.
some of that job is done.
Yeah, yeah, without the other person having to ask. And I
Yeah.
think this is all for really that large cohort of us for whom this is difficult. Like, I mean, there are people who make it look so
Oh,
easy.
oh, yeah,
So
it's
easy.
some make it look crazy easy. I went to another community that I kind of rejoined recently, and we were about 10, 15 of us, and a couple of them who I knew from before, and they had passed out a sheet, and we all gave our names, numbers, and also it was very nicely done. And the next day, I had an email from one of the ladies there. Like, she had sent out this email to everyone.
Hmm.
Then, through her team, she booked time for one on one calls with each of us,
Wow.
right? To say, hey, this is what I do, and I know that now this is what you do. This is where we could intersect. We had actually a meaningful conversation for those 10, 15 minutes.
Wow.
But that's a lot of effort and time she's taking out to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
this, right? And without thinking of, okay, out of these 20, maybe one or two I have genuine need to currently engage with or get something from or give
Hmm.
something to, right? So maybe some things we overthink. I'm not sure. Like, I still haven't found that right.
And also, maybe sometimes networking with some end goal in mind. More
Mm,
and more, I'm realizing now that hiring, especially,
mm,
would just work better overall if you met the people in whatever context you could before. And then, when the opportunity presented itself, because that typical, okay, send me your CV, let's have this chat. Some of you have not been having a lot of good experience with that
mm,
because it's ending up becoming a lot of talk and no action
mm,
versus maybe knowing these people in other contexts, meeting them, knowing that okay, there's this whole universe of individuals who could potentially become people that I work with in the
mm,
future,
mm,
is just so much easier and it feels a lot more organic. And for
mm.
me, I think that could potentially be one one very rare universe in which I would actually like to go out and meet more people.
Ah. One thing that I find works for me is in in networking you think of, okay, there's an A and a B and you're one of them, right? But I don't want to be either of them,
Hmm, hmm,
right? And so what I feel I enjoy and I am good at is being the connector of A and B,
Right.
right? So I know a lot of A's, I know a lot of B's, I know all these people. They're in my universe somewhere, and when A wants B, I don't shy away from asking,
Hmm. Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
think in my mind it's not for me,
Fair.
right?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
a personal ask. I'm just saying, hey, I remember you saying you run a travel company, a friend is looking for this,
Hmm.
can I connect you? They can say yes or no, they may connect or not, whatever, but
The
once I've
pressure to
done
make
that,
anything happen is not on you.
yeah, the
Yeah.
outcome is not on me, and once I've done that, I'm happy to step out of the way. I
Hmm.
don't need
Hmm.
to know
Whether it worked.
whether it
Yeah.
worked, or obviously if it didn't or something went wrong, I mean,
You'll hear
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
you'll hear
Yeah.
about it, but I'm not looking to gain something from that,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
find that very easy to do.
Okay. Hmm.
And so in a way it helps me clarify my why, that my whole, even if I'm forced networking, I'm kind of collecting a lot of A, B's, and C's of people I know, because
Yeah.
someday one may be useful to the other.
And that perspective shift maybe makes it a lot more kinder on yourself
Yeah,
overall.
because then I don't feel like, oh, I went there and I met all these people. I didn't even like send them a note afterwards to say who I am, what was the point. I haven't gotten to anyone. Or I told these three people I'll connect later. I haven't.
Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
like, it takes the pressure off a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, but it also means that you have to be willing to reach out to B when you think A needs them and say, hey, can I
Do
connect you?
this. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've seen 9 times out of 10 people are okay with it, or they'll say yes or no, and you are also okay with either response,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't have that crazy skin in the game. It doesn't feel like a personal affront.
But say tomorrow, for the sake of your business and nothing else,
Hmm.
you had to go out, you have to be somewhere. And it's not an event where you're a speaker. It's not, maybe some of those comfort zones of saying, okay, I have a skill set which I can share,
Hmm.
or I have this knowledge which I can transfer. But I just have to show up and I
Hmm.
have to be in that room for an X amount of time. Would you do it, first of all? And if you would do it, how would you do it?
Just dying to put me on the
I'm
spot.
just, that's why I said not how. Like, would you do it?
Maybe first I'll call you and say you're coming with me.
Damn it.
um, no, I don't think I would shy away from it, right? I think, and that's probably a good reminder that it helps to prep for these.
Hmm.
Mm, You know, just because you're going to an event where you don't know anybody, you sometimes, I mean, at least your assumption is, there's nothing to get ready for. I'm just
Hmm.
going there,
Yeah.
right? But maybe that little bit of prep, saying, why am I going? What can I do? What is a simple two liner I can have ready in my head for this audience that'll help me walk up to somebody and introduce myself, and kind of cover whatever I want to say about me or this thing? I think that may help,
Hmm.
because otherwise it's a huge like, oof, I'm here now, I have to meet five people. What do I
And every
say?
time I have to spin some yarn.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the moment you said, why am I going? I realized, oh, damn, I'm not going to any events anymore, because after that question, there is no reasonable answer that would get me out. But yeah, I mean, again, if it's something I enjoy doing, if it's a bunch of people that I actually like being around, I think the people aspect is hugely important to me.
Mm.
I feel like I pay a lot of attention to the energy of the person in the room.
Mm.
And when that is low, it tends to pull me down significantly as well. And what you're doing when you're networking is you're meeting a bunch of adults who are still stuck in that fear mindset of that child, and now they have to perform, and now they have to feel
Mm.
like, oh, now I need to put up this act, or I need to be this person. I think that tends to throw me off and
Mm.
pull me down a little bit. So
Mm.
maybe that's really the resistance to it. But there are so many events where it's just been a mixer and, it's just a bunch of people talking or not talking over dinner, drinks. There's no, okay, every person stand up and introduce yourselves. All that doesn't exist. You're just there.
Yeah.
And, if you wanted to disappear into the wall, you could.
Yeah.
For me, that freedom is very important because
Yeah.
then the likelihood that I'll disappear into the wall is much lower.
Yeah.
Then I'll actually step up and, maybe
Yeah.
even have some fun.
But that's the thing, like this stand up and introduce yourself. It feels futile to me because at the end of that, typically, I don't remember anybody's name.
Yeah, because all of us have spent time thinking about what we will say. We never listen to the other.
Yeah, and somehow, even if I listen, I don't know if it's an age thing, but over the years, like just information overload,
Yeah.
that it just doesn't stay. Now, after that round of intros, if we are in small groups and I happen to speak to somebody and have like a substantial conversation, right? Then 100% I'll remember them and what they do, and it'll be one of the A's and B's who one day could
Yeah.
potentially connect with each other, or
Yeah.
maybe they with me or I with them. But I need that little bit of intimate connection to even remember that I met this
Makes
person.
sense. Makes sense.
Otherwise, I find it difficult. So I think a lot of this is maybe just putting yourself into different kinds of buckets of events,
Situations.
right?
Yeah.
And honestly, intuitively, by now, with 10, 15 years of being in work places, most people will know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they like or not. But as you maybe evolve into a different career or in seniority within your organization, right? A lot of this has to happen within your organization too,
True.
right? Your peers need to know you, cross functional or teams that you need to work with need to know you, etc. It's about kind of putting yourself there and say, what form of interaction do I like? And then a little bit of the onus is on me to increase that.
Yeah. Or even show up as that
Yeah.
in situations where I don't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
I guess the permission here is that we still have a choice in terms of how we show up and with what purpose. I think we made the job of many community managers and event organizers much, much harder. I wonder how they feel about the need for curated experiences, which somehow never seem curated enough.
Now that you've committed very publicly,
No,
right?
I haven't. I've committed to nothing publicly.
The next event you're at, small, big, whatever, right? Um, how are you going to strike up a conversation? What will you say about yourself?
So, firstly, we are assuming that I'll be the one
Yes.
stepping up.
Yes.
Oh, cool. Honestly, it depends on the context, I think. I don't like to lead with work in most cases. It just doesn't feel very organic unless, I'm in a boardroom and that's what I'm
Yeah.
there for, then it's a different thing. But in most rooms, I find that it's easier to just listen to the other person first. And I'm assuming, going with small groups, unless it's like I don't know, a seminar I have to give in front of 100 people. That's a whole other, we'll
Yeah.
prepare for that
Yeah.
separately. But in a small group, I think I just find it fascinating to just say, hey, what brings you here? And, how have you been? Half the time, in fact, you even end up knowing someone who knows them.
Yeah.
The circles have gotten smaller now. And then find that segue into contributing rather than saying, oh, I'm here today, this Wednesday evening. Oh, I've just had a long work day. I mean, honestly, I feel like nobody cares.
Correct. Yeah. And also, like nowadays, I find there's a challenge to move beyond very stale topics. You mean, like, especially in Bangalore, right? There's that 2 minutes on the traffic
and the weather, and it
this
hasn't rained in forever.
yeah,
And
yeah. Or oh, you came all the way from there. Oh, you're coming from Tamil Nadu. Oh, you're coming from Hyderabad. They're like, enough, yeah. Like these jokes are done and dusted. Let's find some other jokes, or just find some, maybe like some topics or something of, just to to say, hey, like you said, I don't know, it's not very easy to not lead with, so what do you do? Because that's a very easy question to ask.
And I think it's let that question come, because then it allows me to also tailor that response to the person or the group
Fair
of
enough.
people that I'm talking to.
Fair enough.
Because someone in a social context who's asking me what do I do doesn't need to hear the technical jargon of what
Yeah.
I'm doing on a
Yeah.
day in day out
Yeah.
basis. I mean, even in the context of work, there are some cases where we are solving brand problems. Sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's content, sometimes it's completely a fourth thing that none of us
Yeah.
have still. So, me going in and saying, oh, I do this just ends up confusing people, is what I find.
Mm.
Versus let them lead with whatever it is. And then, yes, eventually we all come down to the what do you do question. But then it just also becomes easier to just answer that in a way that's meaningful to them.
Yeah, no, true. And I also appreciate a response where they kind of tell me what they do.
Hmm.
Like I've seen, it doesn't work for me. Like when the person is very flippant about it, or
Hmm.
gets into some esoteric hobby that they have, or
Hmm.
then sometimes you don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
then oh shucks, I don't have that esoteric hobby now. What do I? Like it becomes performative. Right?
Yeah,
It comes
yeah.
back to that
I
trying to
don't want to
impress each
perform.
other
Yeah, yeah,
with this thing, right? So I think preparation, a little bit
yeah.
of, hey, this is a, and we usually have a decent sense of the who's going to be in that room, right? And
Hmm.
then quickly reading the room and saying, okay, this kind of intro makes sense, and this is what, these are the two three things about myself that I'm happy to present kind of
Yeah, yeah. In
authentically.
my head, yeah, that
Yeah,
clarity is always
yeah.
good to
When that
have.
clarity is there, then it kind of is easier
Yeah.
to just say that, and then, like
Hmm.
you said, listen a lot more.
Hmm. I mean, honestly, in my head also, sometimes I'm realizing now that I have this list of things I should not be saying. you know, maybe it's just a mind thing. I don't know, but I feel like I may say the wrong thing. So let me also be very clear.
Why? What is your esoteric hobby, Hasita?
You know all about my esoteric hobbies.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's still, it's not easy, but there are certain groups or group sizes or occasions where I really enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
I really enjoy. We've recently had instances where, like, I walked into your peer group or friend
yeah,
group, you've walked into mine where we didn't know anyone else
yeah. But it
apart.
was rather quite effortless.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And because I think, like you said, to know yourself, that you need a safe space, or you need space where you can be yourself, and then find more of those and say yes to more of those.
yeah.
And the bigger ones where you are required to attend, or you need to tick a box or whatever, go there and make the best of it.
And take another person along and just make your life easier.
Yeah,
Mm.
just make the best of it. Yeah, you will. And a lot of it is also, I'm constantly judging the other person who's come there with a very different intention,
Yeah, yeah, that's
right?
true.
And I have to drop that judgment. I'm like,
Mhm.
because they are quickly meeting 10 people, giving
Yeah,
their
yeah,
card, except fine, that's their agenda.
yeah.
And that,
Actually, that's an interesting perspective. Yeah.
why am I feeling,
Embarrassed on
irritated,
their
or
behalf, or
yeah,
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 yeah.
they're here to do what they want to do, and they're doing it happily.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah, yeah,
get out of their way and let them do it, because that impacts how you feel and then how you interact, because no one's asking you to do that.
yeah. It's almost like the baggage that you've carried on someone else's behalf for a very long. That's
Yeah,
so true in my case for sure. Like, why after 10 years am I still thinking of that person
yeah.
whose eyes darted?
Yeah,
when I mean, why am I
correct.
so worried about the fact that they
Yeah,
were there for a different purpose? You're
yeah,
right.
yeah. Or maybe just like you, they just didn't like it. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know,
maybe
they're
they were
trying to run, they're
overwhelmed
looking
too.
for the exit actually.
God, I hope not.
You never know. Yeah. Okay, so basically, we're both signing up for something, is what I hear.
No, I heard something else. But sure.
Thank you, folks, for listening. And now we have a segment called Read, Watch, Listen. And my recommendation this week is a watch. And I stumbled upon this lovely Netflix show called Mo. And Mo is the kind of true story of Mohammed Amer, who is a Palestinian refugee in Houston, in the US. And his trials and tribulations of, trying to get his asylum authenticated, and to stay in the US legally. But I think beyond that, just this kind of context of what it really means to be a refugee, be somewhere that is not your homeland, and to think about where really home is and why that is home, and the amazing humor that he brings into it. I think Mo is a beautiful watch, especially in the context of where there's so much about Israel and Palestine in the news nowadays. To hear it from this perspective, and it really opens your eyes to the different kinds of lives people are living and struggling through, and you laugh through it too. So just catch Mo on Netflix. Over to you.
Finally, I have a watch recommendation, lest everyone thinks that all I do is read, or rather that I read more than I claim to. This is a show called Shrinking. It's currently streaming on Apple TV. Two seasons in, I think we're all finally, it's the show that gives you permission to have feelings and to have them in healthy ways. And it's really, I think, Shrinking for me is that world where everyone is at peace with their emotional compass. I think we need more of that. I feel like a lot of times there is a lot of unresolved stuff that we carry through our lives, both personally and professionally. But I think in Shrinking, sometimes when I hear the characters talk to each other, I feel like I wish we did this. I wish we had such open conversations with each other in all kinds of contexts, right? So I think for me, the recommendation would be Shrinking. Season two, you should grab a box of tissues, especially towards the end, but so worth it, so binge worthy.
That's it from us this week. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Remember, subscribe, like, share, reshare, repost, do everything that will help us shine more. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.